welcome back to my channel. I'm glad y'all are with me today. Today's video is going to be my end of August reading wrap up. I am officially, I believe, out of my book slump now. I believe I counted up correctly, 11 books in the end half of September, not September, good golly. I'm filming this in September, end of August. So pretty darn good. I'm pretty happy with myself just because I was in that reading slump and I was not reading like anything. So I've picked back up. However, as you'll see as we get into talking about the books that I read, the majority of the books that I ended up reading in the latter half of August really were not great. They really sucked. This first one that we're going to talk about is going to be like one of my favorite books of the year. It was great, but then everything after that just like went way downhill. So we're gonna get right into this since we have so many books to talk about. The first book that I read in the latter half of August is going to be Pen Pal by JT Geissinger. This is a brand new release from her. I read this as soon as it came out. I'm not really 100% sure what kind of genre to put this in. It kind of bends genres. There's already a lot of controversy over this book of people either loving it or hating it. I am the boat of people that loved this book. But some people who hated it are saying that it's not actually a romance. I disagree. I think it is a romance, but it is very mysterious, kind of thriller-y, and I'm not going to say too much about it because I really feel like you should just go into this. Basically at the start of this book we have our heroine. She is grieving the loss of her husband, and they lived in this like really old house, and there's a lot of like wonky things going on in the house, so she's calling to try to get repairs done at her house. But in the meantime she also keeps getting these letters from this guy who's in prison, and she's never met this guy. She doesn't know what's going on or why this guy keeps sending her letters, and they're kind of like love letters to her, so she's trying to figure that out. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this because like I said, I really feel like you should just go into it. Do know that, like I said, it's kind of thrillery. There are twists to this book. I thought I had predicted what was going to happen, and I definitely did not. So there is an HEA, which is why I consider this to be a romance. It is just not what you would typically think of as an HEA. It is a very non-traditional HEA, but I absolutely love this. There are trigger warnings in this for death, murder, grief. The steam on this is very high. There's lots of different like cool like kinks that are in this too. Like there's a little bit of like primal play going on, a little bit of like domination, submission. There's some light breeding kink. And yeah, I gave this 5 stars. This is definitely going to be one of my favorite books that I've read this year. I absolutely loved it. Then the next book that I read is going to be Twisted Love by Huang. I think I'm saying that correctly. This is a contemporary romance. I read this because I haven't read the series, and this series is just like blown up. Everybody loves this. So this first book is about our heroine, and her brother is like leaving. I think he's in like medical school or something, and he's going abroad for schooling. I don't know, something like that. So he's gonna be leaving, and he's worried about his sister, so he kind of hires like his best friend to be her bodyguard and like watch over her. She has had a crush on him and really likes him. So they end up kind of getting together. There's also a little thing about that she's like afraid of water because her mother almost drowned her, so he kind of is like helping her overcome her fear of water. I gave this 2.5 stars. I did not care for this. I don't really see what the hype is on this book. I've heard the others in the series get better, but I'm just really not interested in them. I just found this to be really disappointing, especially because it is so hyped up. And you'll see that's going to be a theme for the rest of this. There's a lot of like hyped books that I read that I just got really disappointed by. I also felt like this was kind of cliche. I didn't really care for, there's a lot of parts that just got glossed over, especially different parts that we're delving into our hero and heroine's like relationship together. And I just didn't really care for it. This does feature like brother's best friend tropes, grumpy sunshine trope. There's trigger warnings for attempted murder and death of a family member. The steam on this is going to be like medium high steam. Okay, then because I read Pen Pal, I was just in a JT Geissinger kind of mood. I wanted to read more of her backlist. So I picked up Dangerous Beauty. This is a contemporary romance. This is about a man who gets hired to track down this woman because she ran away from her, he thinks it's her husband, and he is supposed to track her down and at some point potentially bring her back to him. But then in the process of tracking her down, he ends up kind of falling in love with her from afar. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed the premise of this. I really liked their slow development of their relationship and how they ended up falling in love with each other. There are trigger warnings in this for abuse, which it is in the past, but it does get mentioned. And the steam on this is going to be medium high. Then I read Perfect Strangers by JT Geissinger. I read this because I heard that this was kind of similar to her Pen Pal book, just because it is very more like mysterious and there's twists in it. This is about a woman who is going to Paris, and she is staying at her agent's like apartment in Paris just to try to get over this like writing block that she has, and she's like writing a story, and then she ends up meeting this stranger there that also lives in the same apartment building as her, and they kind of start up like a fling of sorts. There are twists in this. I gave this 3.5 stars. I just didn't like this as much as Pen Pal. And mostly because I still don't really know how I feel about it and how I feel about the twist. Like, there's just like so many twists, and it just left me feeling really confused. So I don't know. The steam on this is very high. There are trigger warnings for chronic/terminal illness. There are trigger warnings for death of a child. I did cry during this book, so I still don't know how I feel, and I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say on that one. Then I read Broken Vows by Sophie Lark. This is the 5th book of the Brutal Birthright series, which I'm trying to make my way through. This one is about Rihanna. I don't know if that's how you say her name. And she is one of the siblings of the Irish family. So this whole world is about these different like mafia families. So she's part of the Irish, and she keeps getting, like, she has a hitman that's after her and somebody's trying to kill her. So Dante, who is her friend and he's part of the Italian family, hires one of his good friends from the army to be her bodyguard and protect her and stop this guy from trying to kill her. And so in the meantime, they have a romance and fall in love. I gave this 4 stars. I was kind of disappointed because I've heard this is like the best book of the series, and it just didn't really like blow me away, although I did really enjoy it. It just wasn't like anything like super wow worthy. I did like, because Rihanna is a very she's kind of seen as like uptight, like an ice queen kind of person, and so Raylan, who is the guy who is hired as her bodyguard, is much more like sunshine kind of character. So I did like it. It's kind of like a reverse Grumpy Sunshine. Like kind of breaks down her walls. And just seeing her fall in love with him, I think is really cute. But otherwise, like I said, it wasn't like a super duper like 5-star kind of read. Esteem on this is going to be very high. There are trigger warnings for attempted murder because somebody's trying to kill her. There is abuse in the past. The tropes, bodyguard romance, like I said, and Grumpy Sunshine. So, yep. Then I read Dangerous Desires, which is the second book of the Dangerous Beauty trilogy by JT Geissinger. I'm not going to tell you too much about this one and the third one, which we'll get to in a minute, just because the first one kind of leaves on a cliffhanger and each book kind of carries on like after that. But this one does introduce a new character, which I have read some other JT Geissinger books where this character pops up, and that is going to be Killian. So this is, I believe, where he first pops up. But yeah, so I gave this 3 stars. I did not like this one as much as the first one, mostly because our characters are not together in this one because of circumstances. And I was much more interested in Killian's character than our 2 main characters. So, trigger warnings in this for violence. Their steam on this, I would say, is more medium, just because our 2 characters aren't really together for much of it. Then I read Scarred by Emily McIntire. This is the second book in her Never After series. This is a series that she has that are, like Disney villain kind of retellings. And here's another one that is very hyped up that I found to be very disappointing. But this is basically a Lion King retelling. We have our hero who he is pissed off, one, because of his past where he was bullied by his brother and his brother's friends. And then he's also pissed off because he wants revenge for the death of his father. And so he is secretly staging a coup to take over to try to be king. Then we have our heroine who has her own agenda going on, another like revenge plot agenda for her. She's wanting revenge for the death of her father, who she believes the royal family killed. And so she is set to be, she's like betrothed to the king, and she's only doing that as a way to get close to him so that she can kill him. Yeah, so I gave this 2 stars. I did not care for this. At first I did enjoy it, but then I just kept coming across issues. So number one, I felt like the pacing was very off with this book. The very beginning of this book was very slow, which I was okay with because we were kind of developing the characters. But then it got to a point where once the 2 characters kind of like got together, then it was just like it almost felt like the author was trying to rush the ending, and didn't know how to properly like develop their love story and get them from being characters on point A to point B. For instance, like our hero of the story, he goes from being like a very selfish, he has like a god complex, he doesn't care about anybody, he will kill anybody just for like looking at him wrong. Anybody that he feels has a slight against him, doesn't care. And he's not gonna let anything get in his way of his goals. To then the end where he's like, I don't care, I'm like whatever, as long as I'm with you, dear, true love, blah blah blah. And I was like very confused by it because it didn't make any sense for the characters that she had developed from the beginning. And the same with the heroine too, like she goes from one kind of character to another, and they just kind of flip-flop, and we don't get enough in the middle to help with that transition to make it believable. So I didn't care for that. Alright, I also feel like our heroine was very one-dimensional. I did not see her as a very dynamic character or well-rounded kind of character. yeah, I was very disappointed in this. There are trigger warnings for death and murder, and the steam on this is going to be like medium high steam. Then I read Dangerous Games, which is the last book of the Dangerous Beauty trilogy. Again, I'm not going to say too much about what this one is about because it does build off of the one before it, because it again ended on a cliffhanger. But this one, again, our two characters are not really together for most of this book. I gave this 3.5 stars because I was still kind of disappointed in it, but I did give it that extra like half star because it does end in HEA and I really liked the ending. I also am pretty proud of our heroine because this one is much more of a story focused on the heroine and her overcoming her abuser. So I was very proud of our heroine, but still I was kind of like meh for the whole storyline. Trigger warnings in this for violence and abuse. Steam on this is going to be medium because, like I said, our two characters are not really together for most of this book. Then I read The Words by Ashley Jade. This is another very hyped up romance that everybody is loving lately. This is a rock star romance. This is about our heroine who gets hired as a like sober companion for this rock star, but they both know each other. They went to high school together. She had tutored him in high school and they kind of built up like a friendship of sorts that became more of like potentially falling in love. But then he left and she's pissed off at him because he took one of her songs that she wrote and said it was his, and he became very famous for this song. So this kind of has a second chance element to it. This is also kind of like a hate to love ish. This one is a pretty long book, but I think it was appropriate how long it was because it does take a while to go from that where we get that backstory of how they already met to them hating, like especially our heroine hating him, to then how they overcome that and she learns to like forgive him. I give this 4 stars. This was definitely not, I can understand the hype for this one. And y'all see this because I did read this for my reading vlog that I did, which will have been posted last week. So I do understand the hype for this one. For me, it wasn't a 5-star read. I've read other books that push it higher than that, but this was a very good book in general. I just had some issues with our hero. I don't like how long it took him, like his groveling process. I don't like how long it took him to finally apologize to her. Like it took a really long time. So I didn't really care for that, but we do get there. There is an HEA. There are trigger warnings for death, death of a family member. There are some body image issues. So our heroine is plus size at the beginning of this, but then she loses weight and she still has body image issues. Then drugs. So our hero has been doing a lot of drugs. And yeah, and then the steam on this was going to be high. Then I read The Never King by Nikki St. Crowe, another very hyped book that I was kind of disappointed by. I'm not even sure what to say what this book is about. It's basically a Peter Pan retelling. We have Winnie and she gets taken by Pan and she kind of becomes his captive, and there's like something going on that he, like at this island, there's something going on that like magic is going away from this island and Winnie is like the key to stopping this somehow. I was just very confused by this whole book. I gave this 3 stars. This was okay. This is kind of a reverse harem because she does end up having sex with some of the Lost Boys. I don't know. I've also been told that this is pretty dark and I just didn't really get that from this. And even though she does have sex, I would consider this more medium steam. I don't know. I just didn't really get what the hype is on this. I may or may not continue I kind of wish that this had more to it. This was much more of like novella length, and I wish this would have been a much longer book to like help me really understand like what the heck is going on. And the last book that I read for the month of August, probably the worst book that I've read, just before we even get into it, is going to be Say You Swear by Meagan Brandy. Now, I also read this for my Overhyped Books reading vlog. This is a very hyped up book, and the vast majority of people love this book. I am not one of them. This is about, at the very beginning of this is about our heroine and her friends. They have just graduated from high school and they're about to go to college. So they're going to this beach house that their parents gifted them. And they're like having a blast partying right before going to college. Well, her brother's best friend is there and she has a big crush on him, and she decides to let her feelings known to him, and they kind of develop a little like fling of sorts, and then he ends up breaking her heart. So then they go to college and she's very upset and sad, and she meets this other guy that she starts a friendship with and develops more feelings for. I went into a very big rant in my vlog about this book if you would like to know more. I hated this book. This would have gotten, I gave this 2 stars. The only reason I gave this 2 stars is because I absolutely loved our hero of the story, which is Noah, who is the second guy that she meets. Otherwise, this would have gotten a 1 star because I hated it so much. First of all, the writing sucked in this book. From the beginning, I had no idea what the purpose of this book even was. There was no clear direction for this story. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, they're just doing this and then they're doing this. This is also a very long book. This is about like 600 pages. Half of this could have been cut and it would have been a much better story. So I didn't care for that. I also didn't care for the writing. It felt very off-putting, like just our characters. They didn't really make any sense. I understand that they are teenagers. Like all of these characters are like 18. So they are very young and naive, but it just felt like there was a disconnect of our author writing these characters. They just didn't seem believable. I didn't really understand how our heroine and her best friend and then her brother and his 2 best friends, like their interactions together, they just felt weird and wrong, and I didn't like that. Then we have a whole ton of tropes in this story that it really just felt like the author had a list of tropes that she was trying to throw everything that she could into this. There comes a point in this story, you get to like the 73% mark, and I saw this in some other reviews of people that did not like this. Once you get to that book, I wanted to throw my phone across the room because I was so pissed off with something that happens, because she's trying to bring this like twist into the story and really make you like this gut-wrenching, like tearjerker kind of story. And I honestly feel like that's what her purpose was in writing this, is she had this like moment, this tearjerker that she wanted to write, but then had no idea how to get to that point. And it made me so mad. There are trigger warnings for death of a family member in this that I didn't care for, that was in here. There are a bunch of tropes, and some of them are going to be trigger warnings. So you may want to look those up because of some twists that happen. And I just felt like a lot of like the drama that was brought into this and the angst was completely unnecessary. There's also the love triangle kind of thing from like her past crush and her new love interest, which I was totally over, did not care for that. I don't really like all of the drama and turmoil that was put on my sweet baby Noah. Yeah, so I could go on and on and on about how much I hated this book, but it was terrible, and I don't understand why people love this. It was awful, and I'm probably not going to read any more Meagan Brandy books because of this. I might pick up one just to see if she can redeem herself in my eyes, but I don't know, not really feeling it because I'm just like, this is terrible. Anyway, so that's gonna be the last book that I read for August. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you like this story. I can't think. My baby is like crying, so whatever. Leave a thumbs up if you like this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you want to see more videos from me, I really appreciate it. And I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.